My son booked a table at an expensive restaurant for Mother's Day. I spent the entire day getting ready, and in the afternoon, his mother-in-law invaded my living room wearing a gala dress. "Son-in-law, I am ready for our dinner," she said, with that smile that always seemed fake to me. He gave a crooked smile, looking at me. "Mom, did you think this was for you?" I did not argue, but at midnight the phone would not stop ringing. "Mom, they blocked my card. I need $15,000 in cash, urgently." After what I answered, he went into a complete panic. But let me tell you from the beginning how we got to this moment. Let me show you how Mother's Day became the day everything changed forever. It was Sunday afternoon, 3:30 to be exact. I was in front of the mirror in my bedroom, finishing getting ready. I had chosen a wine-colored dress that I bought especially for this occasion. Nothing extravagant, nothing over the top, just something nice, something that made me feel special for once. I put on the pearl earrings my late husband gave me 30 years ago. I painted my lips a soft shade. I tied my hair in an elegant but simple bun. Every detail mattered because Jason had said he would take me to a fine restaurant, one of those places where you have to make a reservation weeks in advance. I had been preparing all day. Since the morning, when I took a long shower and chose underwear that did not have any holes, since I took that dress out of the closet, which I had bought 3 weeks ago. Thinking about this day, since I ironed every wrinkle with care, wanting everything to turn out perfect, because my son had called me, my Jason, the same one who almost never had time for me, the same one who canceled lunches and forgot birthdays. He had called me personally to tell me he had made a special reservation, that he wanted to celebrate with me, that this year would be different. And I believed him. My God, how I believed him. I looked at myself one last time in the mirror. 65 years stared back at me. Wrinkles around the eyes, spots on the hands, but I looked good. I looked like a mother who was going to have dinner with her son, like a woman who still mattered. I went down the stairs of my house carefully. My knees are not what they used to be, but that day I did not even feel the pain. I was excited, nervous even, like a teenager waiting for her first date. The clock showed 10 minutes to 4. Jason had said he would pick me up at 4, so I sat in the living room, with my purse on my lap, waiting to hear his car in the driveway. The house was silent. That silence that became my constant companion since my husband died 5 years ago. That silence that is only broken by the noise of the television or by Jason's sporadic calls asking for something. But that day the silence was different. It was a silence full of expectation, of hope, of the illusion that maybe, just maybe, my son remembered that I existed. I heard a car engine. My heart skipped a beat. I stood up, smoothed my dress, checked that my purse had everything necessary, but the car drove past. It was not him. I sat back down. I looked at the clock. 5 minutes past 4, 10 minutes past 4, 15 minutes past 4. Jason always arrived late. That was nothing new. I told myself not to worry, that the traffic was heavy, that he was surely on his way. At 4:30, I heard another car. This time it did stop in front of my house. I got up quickly, took my purse, walked toward the door. But before I could open it, I heard voices outside. Laughter. It was not just Jason. I opened the door, and what I saw confused me completely. There was my son. Yes, tall, in his gray suit that fit him so well. But he was not alone. Beside him, getting out of the passenger seat, was his wife, Ashley. And behind them, getting out of the back seat, someone else was stepping down. Victoria, Ashley's mother, my son's mother-in-law. And she was not dressed casually. No. Victoria was wearing a gold-colored gala dress, ankle-length, with sequins, with a silk shawl over her shoulders, high heels, jewelry that sparkled under the afternoon sun. She came dressed as if she were going to a wedding, as if she were going to an awards ceremony. I froze in the doorway. My brain tried to process what I was seeing. Maybe they came to pick me up and then would drop Victoria off somewhere. Maybe she had another engagement. But then Victoria walked toward my entrance with that confidence that always characterized her. That way of walking of someone who knows everyone is watching her. She climbed the 3 steps of my porch and looked me up and down. "Margaret, what a cute dress," she said with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Very appropriate for staying at home." I did not understand. I looked at Jason, seeking an explanation. He avoided my gaze and stood there checking his phone. Ashley was fixing her hair as if nothing were happening. Victoria walked past me and entered my living room without me inviting her. She stood in the center, looking around as if it were an inspection. She turned on her heels and smiled at me. "Son-in-law, I am ready for our dinner," she said, looking at Jason, who had just entered behind her. It was in that moment that the world stopped. Victoria's words resonated in my head. "Our dinner, son-in-law, ready." Jason finally looked up from his phone. He looked at me, and then it happened. He smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was not a son's smile. It was a crooked smile, almost mocking, as if what he was about to say to me was funny. "Mom, did you think this was for you?" The words floated in the air like smoke, like poison, like something that once said, "Cannot be undone." I stood there, looking at him. My son, the baby I carried in my womb, the boy I raised alone after his father got sick, the man I had put above everything and everyone all my life. And he was looking at me as if I were a stranger, as if it were ridiculous that I thought the Mother's Day dinner was for me, for his mother. Victoria let out a little giggle. Ashley looked away, uncomfortable but without saying anything. "The reservation is for 5:30, Mom," Jason continued, putting his phone in his pocket. "And as you know, I only made a reservation for 3 people. I thought it had been clear." Clear? Clear to whom? I did not remember any conversation where he told me the dinner was not for me. I remembered his call. I remembered his voice telling me he had made a special reservation. I remembered asking him what time he would pick me up and him saying around 4. But now he was standing in my living room with his mother-in-law dressed in a gala gown, telling me that I had misunderstood, that I had assumed, that I had thought things that were not true. I said nothing. I literally could not. The words got stuck somewhere between my chest and my throat, between the pain and the disbelief. "Well, we better go," said Victoria, walking toward the door. "I do not want us to lose the reservation. You know how those places are, Jason. If you arrive late, they give the table to someone else." Yes, we are coming," replied my son, offering his arm to his mother-in-law like a gentleman, like the perfect son, like the ideal son-in-law. Ashley walked out behind them without looking at me. The 3 of them went down the steps. The 3 of them got into the car. The 3 of them left. And I remained standing in the doorway of my own house, with my wine-colored dress, with my pearl earrings, with my purse in my hand, watching how my son's car drove away down the street, watching how they left me. On Mother's Day, alone. I closed the door slowly. I did not slam it. I did not scream. I did not make any of those dramatic gestures seen in movies. I simply closed it. And I stood there, in the foyer of my house, not knowing very well what to do. The silence returned. But now it was different. It was no longer that silence full of hope. It was an empty silence. Heavy, as if someone had turned off all the lights at once, and I was trying to find my way in the dark. I took off my shoes. I went up the stairs slowly. I entered my room and sat on the edge of the bed without taking off the dress yet. I just sat there, staring at the wall, trying to understand what exactly had happened. Let me tell you what my days were like before this. Before my son ripped away the last shred of illusion I had left. Because to understand what happened that day, you need to know what my life was like. You need to see what I saw every morning upon waking up. I get up every day at 6 in the morning. Not because I have to go to work. Not because someone is waiting for me. I get up because my body no longer knows how to sleep anymore. Because after 40 years of getting up early to prepare breakfast for my husband and my son, my body no longer knows another routine. I put on my robe. I go down to the kitchen. I make coffee just for me. 1 cup, not 2. There is no one else anymore. I sit at the kitchen table where the 3 of us used to eat breakfast, where Jason did his homework while I cooked, where my husband read the newspaper and told me the news. Now that table is too big for a single person. I drink my coffee in silence. Sometimes I turn on the television just to hear voices, so the house does not feel so dead. I watch cooking shows, news. Whatever is on, it does not really matter. I just need noise. Afterward, I wash my cup, a single cup, and I start cleaning a house that is already clean. Because What else am I going to do? I vacuum carpets that have no dust. I clean furniture that no one touches. I fold towels that only I use. By 10 in the morning, I have finished all my chores, and the day is barely beginning. There are 8 hours left until it is appropriate to prepare dinner. 8 hours of nothing. Sometimes I go out to the garden. I water the plants my husband planted before he died. I pull the weeds. I sit on the metal bench he installed so I could take some sun. But the sun does not feel the same when you take it alone. Other times, I go to the supermarket. I walk through the aisles slowly, very slowly, because I am in no hurry, because no one is waiting for me at home. I buy things I do not need just to have a reason for having gone out. A bag of apples, fresh bread, soap even though I still have 3 at home. The cashiers know me. "Mrs. Margaret, how are you today?" "Fine," I tell them. "Always fine." Because what else am I going to say? That I am alone? That my son does not call me? That sometimes I spend entire days without speaking to anyone? I return home carrying my bags. I put everything away. And I keep waiting. I wait for the phone to ring. I wait for it to be Jason saying he is coming to visit me, that he will stop by to eat, that he needs something. Anything, any excuse to see him. But the phone almost never rings. And when it rings, it is almost never him. They are calls from banks offering credit cards. They are automated recordings selling insurance. They are wrong numbers. "Hello, is Mary there?" No, Mary lives here." "Sorry," they say, and hang up. And I stay with the phone in my hand, wishing it had been my son, wishing to hear his voice saying, "Mom." On Wednesdays, I go to the neighborhood market. I walk among the fruit and vegetable stands. I greet the ladies who have been selling there for years. We buy in the same places. We talk about the weather, about the price of tomatoes, about how everything is more expensive every day. They are also alone, widows, divorced, women whose children grew up and left. We recognize each other without needing to say anything. We know what it is like to wake up in an empty house. We know what it is like to cook for one. We know how it hurts. On Fridays, I clean deeper. I wash curtains. I dust places where there is no dust. I reorganize closets that are already organized. I keep myself busy, because if I stop, if I sit without doing anything, the thoughts come. And the thoughts hurt. I think about my husband, about how life was when he was here, about how the house felt full, about how there was always someone to talk to, someone who asked how my day was, someone who noticed if I was sad. I think about Jason when he was a child, about how he ran through this house, about how he hugged me when he arrived from school. Mom, look what I made." And I dropped everything to look at him, to listen to him, to let him know that he was the most important thing in my world. When did it change? At what moment did I stop being important to him? Maybe it was when he met Ashley. Maybe it was when he got married and formed his own family. Maybe it was gradual, so slow that I did not realize it until it was already too late. The calls became shorter, the visits more spaced out, the forgotten birthdays, the broken promises, everything, little by little, like water dripping and eventually making a hole in the stone. But I kept waiting. I kept believing that things were going to get better, that my son was going to remember that I existed, that he was going to realize his mother was waiting for him, always waiting, because that is what mothers do, right? We wait, we forgive, we justify. He is busy, I told myself. He has his job, his wife, his life. It is normal. Children grow up. They leave. That is how it has to be. But there is a difference between a child growing up and leaving, and a child making you invisible. There is a difference between having his own life and treating you as if you no longer mattered. And I started to feel that difference every day. In every call that did not arrive, in every promise he did not keep, in every time I initiated the conversation, because I knew that if I did not do it, he would not call. "Hello, my son. How are you?" "Busy, Mom. I'll call you later." And later never arrived. "Are you coming to eat on Sunday?" "I can't, Mom. We have plans." "What plans?" "Just plans, Mom. I'll tell you later." And he never told me. "Your birthday passed. Did you receive my message?" "Oh, yes, Mom. Thanks. Sorry I couldn't call. Work was heavy." And I was left with the words in my mouth. with the cake I had bought, hoping that maybe, just maybe, he would arrive. I got used to celebrating alone. My birthday, Christmas, New Year's. I turned on the television to watch the fireworks from my living room. I toasted with a glass of cider. Happy New Year, Margaret, I told myself. And I kept waiting for next year to be different. For Jason to remember next year. For him to want to spend time with me next year. But the years passed, and nothing changed. Or it did change. It changed for the worse. Because now, when he called, it was only when he needed something. Mom, can you watch the dog this weekend? Mom, do you have that recipe for your stew? Mom, can you transfer me a little money? Just until payday. And I always said yes. Always. Because it was the only way for him to need me. The only way to be part of his life. Even if it was just as someone useful. As someone who solves problems. As someone who gives without expecting to receive. Except that I did expect. I expected that one day he would see me. That he would value me. That he would realize everything I did for him. Everything I had always done. I raised Jason alone during the last years of my husband's illness. I worked part-time at a store to help with expenses. I arrived running from work to take Jason to his soccer practice, to help him with homework, to prepare dinner, to take care of my husband, who was weaker every day. I didn't sleep. I almost didn't eat. I lived on autopilot because I had to keep everything functioning. I had to be strong for both of them, for my son and for my husband. When my husband died, Jason was 17. I promised him that he would lack nothing, that we were going to get ahead, and I delivered. I worked double shifts. I sacrificed. I forgot about myself so he could study, so he could have a career, so he would have a future better than mine, and he achieved it. He graduated. He got a good job. He met Ashley. He got married. He has a nice house, a new car, expensive clothes, trips. But at some point on that path, he forgot who helped him get there. He forgot the nights I stayed up ironing other people's uniforms to pay for his school. He forgot the times I ate beans all week so he could eat meat. Or maybe he didn't forget. Maybe he simply didn't care. The slights didn't arrive all at once. They arrived little by little, like a silent disease that advances without you noticing until it is already deep inside. At first, they were small things. So small that I justified them myself. I told myself I was exaggerating, that it was normal, that this is how children are when they grow up. The first time Jason canceled a lunch with me was 3 months after getting married. We had agreed to meet on a Saturday. I had cooked since early morning. I made his favorite dish, that chicken and green salsa he loved since he was a boy. I set the table nicely. I took out the good plates, the ones I only used on special occasions. At 2 in the afternoon, I received his message. Sorry, Mom. Something came up. Better leave it for another day. I stood looking at the food on the stove. All that work, all that love put into every ingredient. For nothing. I put everything in the refrigerator. I ate alone. The chicken tasted different. It tasted like disappointment. Another day, I told him. There will be another day. But another day did not arrive soon. 2 weeks passed. 3. A month. I did not want to pressure him. I did not want to be that nagging mother, that mother who does not understand that children have their lives. Finally, I called him. Son, when are you coming to eat? I have your chicken saved in the freezer. Oh, Mom, right now it's complicated. Work is heavy. Ashley has things to do. We'll see. We'll see. Those 2 words became his answer for everything. Are you coming for my birthday? We'll see, Mom. Are we seeing each other on Sunday? We'll see. Mom, can you call me when you have time? We'll see, Mom. And I kept waiting. I kept cooking, just in case. I kept cleaning the house just in case he decided to visit me. I kept buying his favorite cookies and keeping them in the cupboard, just in case. But the just in cases never materialized. When he did come, it was always fast. Very fast. He arrived in a hurry, with the car engine running, with Ashley waiting for him outside. Hi, Mom. Just came to drop off these papers. Can you keep them for me? It's just that at the house, we don't have space. And I kept his boxes, his old documents, his things he no longer wanted, but didn't want to throw away either. My house became his storage unit, the place where he left what no longer served him, including me. There was an afternoon I needed help changing a light bulb in the ceiling. It was very high up. I couldn't reach even with the ladder. I called Jason. Son, could you come help me with a light bulb? I won't be long. Mom, I'm driving. I'll call you in a bit. He didn't call. Neither that day nor the next. The bulb remained burnt out for 2 weeks until I asked my neighbor's son for help. A 20-year-old boy who didn't know me but had more consideration than my own son. I paid him $50 for 5 minutes of work. He didn't want to accept it, but I insisted. At least someone deserved a reward for helping me. When I told Jason days later, his response was simple. "Ah, that's good, Mom. Well done." Not even an "I'm sorry." Not even an "I should have gone myself." Nothing. As if it were the most normal thing in the world that his 65-year-old mother had to pay a stranger because he didn't have time. But what hurt the most were not the cancellations. It wasn't the quick visits. It wasn't the forgetfulness. What hurt the most was seeing how he did have time for others. Because Jason did visit Victoria every Sunday, without fail. He arrived at his mother-in-law's house with flowers, with wine, with gifts. He stayed for hours. They ate together. They talked. They laughed. I knew because once I passed in front of Victoria's house on a Sunday afternoon. It wasn't on purpose. I was on my way back from the market, and there was Jason's car parked outside, with Ashley sitting in the garden. With Jason helping Victoria prune some plants, I stood on the corner, hidden behind a tree, watching them, watching him do everything he no longer did with me. Smiling, talking, being present. I kept walking before they saw me. I didn't want them to know I had seen them. I didn't want to seem like the jealous mother, the pathetic mother spying on her son. But that image stayed engraved in my mind. Jason pruning Victoria's garden. Jason, who hadn't come to change my light bulb, who didn't have time to have lunch with me, who was always busy. Except he wasn't busy. He was just busy for me. The celebrations were worse. Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving. He always had plans, always with Ashley's family. "We're going to be at my mother-in-law's house, Mom. Victoria already bought everything. She already invited the family. We can't cancel." "And what about me?" I wanted to ask. "Am I not family? Do I not count?" But I didn't ask. I just said, "It's okay, son. Have fun." And I hung up before he heard my voice break. I spent the holidays alone. I bought a frozen dinner for one person. I heated it in the microwave. I ate in front of the television watching Christmas movies where families were together, where mothers didn't spend the holidays alone. And I cried. God, how I cried. With the plate on my lap, with the lights of the tree that I didn't even put up anymore, because what for? With the phone in my hand, hoping that maybe, just maybe, Jason would call to wish me a Merry Christmas. Sometimes he called. At 11 at night, when he was already at his house. When he had already had dinner with everyone except me. "Hi, Mom. Merry Christmas. How did you spend it?" "Fine, son. Quiet." "That's good. Well, I'll let you go. I have to work tomorrow. Take care." "You too, son." And he left. And I stayed with those crumbs of attention, with those 30 seconds of conversation, with that Merry Christmas said in a hurry, out of obligation, like something that had to be done to not feel guilty. My 65th birthday was particularly painful. Jason didn't come. He didn't call. He didn't even send a text. Nothing. I waited all day. I checked my phone every 5 minutes. Maybe he had forgotten in the morning, but he would remember later. Maybe he was planning a surprise. Maybe he was going to arrive suddenly with a cake. But he didn't arrive. The day ended. 12 midnight, 65 years old, alone. The next day, I wrote to him. "Son, yesterday was my birthday." His answer arrived 4 hours later. "Oh, Mom, sorry. It completely slipped my mind. You know how work is? Happy belated birthday. I'll make it up to you later." He never made it up to me. There never was a later. But 2 weeks later, I saw on his social media account the photos of Victoria's birthday. He had gone. He had brought a huge cake. There were decorations. There were balloons. There was a party. And there was my son, smiling, hugging his mother-in-law, singing happy birthday, being the perfect son-in-law. I closed my phone. I sat on the bed. And something inside me broke a little more. I started to understand That it wasn't that Jason didn't have time. It wasn't that he was too busy, it was that he had decided to invest his time elsewhere. In another family, in another mother. And I had become the backup option. The person called only when something was needed. Money, a favor, a place to store things. Can you lend me $2,000, Mom? It's just that things got complicated this month with some payments. And I transferred it to him. Without asking him to return it. Because I knew he wouldn't. Because I knew that was the price of maintaining some kind of contact with him. Can you store some boxes for me, Mom? It's just that we're going to remodel and we need space. And I made space. I moved my things. I stored his. I converted my garage into his personal storage unit. Can you make me that stew you make, Mom? It's just that Ashley is going to have a get-together and wants to bring it. And I cooked. I got up early. I bought the ingredients. I spent hours in the kitchen. I packed it all nicely. I took it to his house. And they didn't even invite me to stay. Thanks, Mom. I'll deposit the money for the ingredients later. He didn't do it later. But I never complained. Because complaining meant pushing them further away. It meant being the problem mother. The mother who doesn't understand. The bitter mother. And I didn't want to be that mother. I wanted to be the mother he wanted to visit. The mother with whom he wanted to spend time, not out of obligation, not out of necessity, but because she really mattered to him. But every day, it became more evident that wasn't going to happen. It was 3 weeks before Mother's Day when everything changed. Or at least, when I thought it had changed. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the kitchen preparing dinner. Just for me, as always. White rice, a little grilled chicken, nothing special. When you cook for a single person, you stop making an effort. It makes no sense anymore. The phone rang. I looked at the screen. Jason. My heart gave that silly jump it always gave when I saw his name. That jump of hope, of illusion, of maybe this time it will be different. Hello? Hi, Mom. How are you? Something in his voice sounded different. Warmer, more present, like when he was a boy and arrived happy from school. Fine, son. And you? Everything okay? Yes, Mom. Everything's fine. Hey, I was calling to tell you something. I sat on a kitchen chair. My hand trembled a little holding the phone. I don't know why. Maybe because it had been so long since he called just to talk, just to tell me something that wasn't asking me for a favor. What happened, son? Well, you know Mother's Day is coming up, right? Yes, of course I knew. I had been waiting for it with a mixture of hope and fear. Hoping that maybe this year would be different. Fearing it would be the same as all the previous ones. Alone. Well, Mom, I want to do something special this year. I made a reservation at a very nice restaurant. One of those elegant places where you have to book in advance. I stayed silent. I didn't dare interrupt. I didn't dare even breathe too loud. Because if this was what I thought it was, if finally my son was inviting me to celebrate with him, I didn't want to ruin it. Yes, Mom. Are you listening to me? Yes, son. I'm listening. Well, that's it. I made the reservation for Sunday. The restaurant is called The Gilded Olive. It's Italian, very elegant. They have a special menu for that day. The Gilded Olive. I knew that place. I passed in front of it sometimes when I went downtown. It had large windows, white tablecloths, well-dressed people entering and leaving. It was the kind of place where I had never entered. Too expensive, too fine for someone like me. How lovely, son. Yes, Mom. And well, I wanted to let you know in time, so you can get ready. You know, get dressed up and all that. Was he telling me to get dressed up? To get ready? This was real. This was happening. My son was inviting me to dinner, to a nice place, on Mother's Day, after years of forgetfulness, of broken promises, of solitary celebrations. Finally, he had remembered me. Of course, son. What time would it be? I'll pick you up around 4. The reservation is at 5:30, but I want to get there early. You know how traffic is on Sundays. At 4. Sunday. At my house. He was coming for me. Perfect, son. I'll wait for you there. All right, Mom. See you then. Take care. You too, son. And thank you. Really. Don't mention it, Mom. See you Sunday. He hung up. I stayed seated with the phone in my hand, looking at the screen that was now black, repeating the conversation in my head, making sure I had heard it right, that I hadn't misunderstood anything. My son had invited me to dinner, to an elegant restaurant. For Mother's Day, I got up from the chair. I turned off the stove. I wasn't hungry anymore. I was too excited to eat. I went up to my room. I opened the closet. I started checking my clothes. What was I going to wear? Nothing I had was appropriate for a place like the Gilded Olive. My dresses were old, out of fashion. Clothes I had bought years ago when I still went out. When there were still occasions to dress up, I had to buy something new, something nice, something that would make my son feel proud to be with me. The next day I went to the mall. I hadn't gone in months, maybe a year. I had no reason to go. I had nowhere to go out. But now I did. Now I had the most important dinner of my life. I entered a department store. I walked among the racks of clothes, touching fabrics, looking at colors. I felt strange, out of place, as if I didn't recognize myself, as if that woman in the new dress couldn't be me. A saleswoman approached me. "Can I help you with anything, ma'am? I'm looking for a dress for a dinner. Something elegant, but not too much." "What kind of occasion?" "It's for Mother's Day. My son is going to take me to dinner." The saleswoman smiled. "How lovely. Come, I'm going to show you some styles you might like." She took me to a section with more formal dresses. She touched the fabrics. She took out hangers. "This one would fit you very well. It is wine-colored, very elegant. And this tone is very flattering." I tried on the wine-colored dress. It fit me well. It wasn't too tight. It wasn't too loose. It was perfect. I looked like a lady going to an elegant dinner with her son. I looked like a mother who matters. "I'll take it." "Excellent choice, ma'am. Do you need shoes? A purse?" I ended up buying some low-heeled black shoes too. A small purse, a shawl in case it was cold in the restaurant. I spent $300. It was a lot of money, more than I had spent on myself in years. But it was worth it. Tonight was worth every penny. I spent the following days preparing myself mentally, thinking about what I was going to talk to Jason about during dinner, about how we were going to make up for all that lost time, about how maybe this was the start of something new, of a different relationship. Better. I told my neighbor Linda. She was one of the few people I still spoke with. A lady my age who also lived alone, who also had children who visited her little. "Linda, my son is going to take me to dinner on Sunday, to a very elegant restaurant." "Oh, Margaret, how wonderful. I'm so happy for you. It was about time that boy remembered his mother." "Yes, Linda. I feel like things are going to change. I feel like he finally understood that I also need attention, that I also exist." "Hopefully so, Margaret. You deserve that and more, after everything you've done for him." Her words filled me with hope. Yes, I deserved this. I deserved my son seeing me, valuing me, spending time with me. On Saturday, I cleaned the house from top to bottom. Although it wasn't necessary, it was already clean. But I needed to do something. I needed to burn off that nervous energy I had inside. I washed my hair. I did a treatment I bought especially. I painted my nails. I plucked my eyebrows. Every detail mattered. I wanted to look good. I wanted Jason to see that I had made an effort, that for me this was important. Sunday I woke up early. At 6 in the morning I was already awake, although I didn't have to get ready until the afternoon. I ate little breakfast. I was too nervous. My stomach was a knot of emotion. I spent the morning watching television without really paying attention. I looked at the clock every 5 minutes. Time passed so slowly, so terribly slowly. At 2 in the afternoon I started getting ready. I showered calmly. I put lotion on my whole body. I dried my hair carefully. I tied it in that elegant bun I had practiced in front of the mirror. I put on the new dress, the new shoes, the pearl earrings. I applied soft makeup. I didn't want to look exaggerated. I just wanted to look good. Like a mother going out with her son, I looked at myself in the mirror. And for the first time in a long time, I liked what I saw. I looked like someone with worth, like someone who deserves to be taken to a nice place. I went down to the living room. I sat with my purse on my lap. It was 3:30. Half an hour left. Half an hour for my son to arrive. Half an hour for this new stage to begin. I waited, looking out the window, listening to every car that passed, wondering if he was coming, if he was close, At 10 minutes to 4, I started to hear my heart beat faster. Almost there. He was almost here. And then I heard the engine. The car stopping in front of my house. I stood up. I took my purse. I breathed deep. This was it. This was finally happening. I walked toward the door. I put my hand on the knob. I smiled. I opened it. And that was when my world collapsed. Because it wasn't just Jason who was there. It was Jason with Ashley. And with Victoria. And Victoria came dressed as if she were going to a presidential gala. Her dress was gold, long, with sequins reflecting the sunlight. She wore a silk shawl over her shoulders, high-heeled shoes, a pearl necklace that probably cost more than all my furniture combined. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup impeccable. And me standing in the doorway with my wine-colored dress from the mall, with my low-heeled shoes, with my small purse, looking exactly like what I was. A mother who had made an effort. A mother who had believed. Victoria climbed the steps of my entrance as if it were a runway, with that confidence that only people who have never doubted their place in the world have. She looked me up and down, and smiled. "Margaret, what a cute dress. Very appropriate for staying at home." The words hit me like rocks. Staying at home. Why was I going to stay at home? I was going to the dinner. Jason had invited me. He had told me to prepare myself, to get dressed up. I looked at my son seeking an explanation. Some sign that this was a misunderstanding, that Victoria was confused, that obviously I was going too. But Jason didn't look at me. He had his eyes fixed on his phone, as if what was happening on that screen was more important than his mother standing at the door, waiting to go to dinner with him. Victoria passed by me and entered my living room without asking for permission. As if it were her house. As if she had every right. She stood in the center and turned, looking around, evaluating, judging, finding everything insufficient. Ashley entered behind her. At least she had the decency to look uncomfortable. She gave me a quick smile. Weak. That smile you give when you know something is wrong but you don't have the courage to say it. Jason was the last to enter. Finally, he put away his phone. Finally, he looked at me. And I saw something in his eyes that I had never seen before. Or maybe it had always been there, and I hadn't wanted to see it. Indifference. Complete and total indifference. Victoria turned toward him. "Son-in-law, I am ready for our dinner. I don't want us to arrive late. You know how those places are. If you arrive late, you lose the reservation." "Our dinner." She said our dinner, as if it were something they had planned together, as if she were the special guest, as if I didn't exist. And then Jason spoke. And with those words, he destroyed the last thing I had left. "Mom, did you think this was for you?" The air left my lungs. The words floated in the space between us, so real, so cruel, so definitive. "What?" was the only thing I could say. A whisper. A question that already knew the answer, but my brain refused to accept. Jason sighed. As if I were a foolish child who didn't understand the simplest things. As if he had to explain something obvious to someone very slow. "The reservation, Mom. It's for 3 people. Ashley, Victoria, and me." I thought it had been clear when we spoke. Clear. When had it been clear? I reviewed our conversation in my head. Every word, every phrase. "I made a reservation for Mother's Day. I want you to get ready. I'll pick you up at 4. In what part of that conversation had it been clear that I wasn't invited? In what part had he told me that the dinner was for his mother-in-law and not for his mother? "But you said you were picking me up, that I should get dressed up." "Yes, Mom. I picked you up because I need you to store some boxes I have in the trunk. And I told you to get dressed up because I thought maybe you were going out. I don't know. With your friends or something like that?" "My friends." "What friends?" "The few women I spoke to were in the same situation as me. Alone. Forgotten. Waiting for crumbs of attention from their children." Victoria let out a little giggle. It wasn't loud. It wasn't exaggerated. It was a small giggle. Delicate. But loaded with poison. Loaded with victory. "Oh, Margaret, did you really think the dinner was for you? But Jason invited me weeks ago. We've been planning this together. He even helped me choose this dress." "Right. Son-in-law?" Jason nodded. "Yes. We went to 3 stores until finding the perfect one. They had gone shopping together. My son had taken his mother-in-law to buy a dress for a Mother's Day dinner, a dinner to which he was taking another mother, not his. I was still standing in the same position, with my purse in my hand, with my new dress, with my illusion shattered in pieces at my feet. Ashley finally spoke. Her voice was soft, almost apologetic, but not enough to do anything about it. Mother-in-law, it's just that Mom insisted a lot. You know how she is. And well, Jason wanted to do something special for her. You understand, right? No, I didn't understand. I didn't understand how my son could do something special for another mother on Mother's Day. I didn't understand how he could see me standing there, dressed up, waiting, and feel absolutely nothing. Jason looked at his watch. It's already 4:15. We have to go. Where are your garage keys, Mom? I'm going to put the boxes in quickly. I gave him the keys. I don't know why. Maybe because my body was on autopilot. Maybe because I still hadn't completely processed what was happening. He went out to the garage. I heard him opening the trunk, dragging boxes, putting them in my garage as if nothing were wrong, as if he hadn't just destroyed me. Victoria adjusted the shawl over her shoulders. She looked at her reflection in the glass of a painting I have in the living room. She fixed a lock of hair, satisfied with herself, satisfied with her place in my son's life. You know, Margaret, you should look for activities, something to do. It is sad to see a woman of your age so alone, so dependent on her son. There are groups, clubs, things for elderly people. As if she weren't my age, as if she were young, as if the problem were me and my loneliness, not my son and his cruelty. Ashley touched my arm. It was a quick gesture, uncomfortable. Mother-in-law, don't feel bad. Another day will come to visit you. Yes, when we have time. When we have time. Those words again. That later that never arrived. Jason returned from the garage. He dusted off his hands. Ready, Mom. They're stored. They're just some boxes with old books and some of Ashley's things. They're not in the way, right? Not in the way. Nothing was in the way. Not his boxes, not his broken promises, not his indifference. Everything had space in my house, in my life, in my heart that refused to close the door on him. Well, we're leaving. The reservation is at 5:30, and with traffic, we're cutting it close. They headed for the door. The three of them. Victoria in front, Ashley in the middle, Jason closing. Like a family. A family in which I had no place. Jason stopped at the threshold. He turned to look at me. Oh, Mom, one more thing. On Monday they're going to come fix the plumbing in your bathroom. I gave them your number. They're going to call you to confirm the time. It's just that you told me you had a leak. Remember? Yes. I had mentioned the leak 2 months ago, in one of our 30-second conversations, and now he was solving it. Sending someone, paying for it probably, doing the bare minimum to not feel like the son he really was. Thanks, son. You're welcome, Mom. See you. And they left. They went down the steps. They walked toward the car. Jason opened the back door for Victoria like a gentleman, like the perfect son, like the ideal son-in-law. Ashley got in the front. Jason went around and got into the driver's seat. The engine started. The doors closed. The car drove away. And I remained standing in the door of my house, with my wine-colored dress, with my new shoes, with my purse in my hand, watching how they drove away, watching how they left me. On Mother's Day, alone. The street was empty. The sun was starting to go down. It was a little cold, but I didn't feel it. I felt nothing, or I felt too much. I didn't know which of the two. I heard my neighbor Linda coming out of her house. Margaret, did they leave already? I thought you were going out with them. I turned to look at her, and she saw my face. She saw my eyes. She saw everything I was feeling without needing me to say a word. Oh, Margaret, come. Let's go inside. She took me by the arm. She guided me inside my house. She closed the door. She took me to the living room. She sat me on the sofa. She sat next to me. And there, finally, the tears came out. They weren't silent tears. They were sobs. Deep, painful, as if everything I had kept inside for years was coming out at once. Linda didn't say anything. She just hugged me. She let me cry on her shoulder. She let me let out all that pain, that humiliation, that sadness so big it didn't fit inside me. I don't know how long we were like that. Maybe 20 minutes? Maybe an hour? Time stopped mattering. When finally I calmed down, when I had no more tears left, Linda spoke. Margaret, this isn't right. What your son did to you isn't right. You don't deserve this. I know, Linda. I know. And what are you going to do? I didn't know. In that moment, I didn't know what I was going to do. I only knew that something inside me had changed. Something had broken. Or maybe something had woken up. I don't know, Linda. But something has to change. This cannot go on like this. She nodded. She gave me a tissue. I wiped my face. I took off my shoes. I let down my hair. I took off the earrings. Linda stayed with me until it got dark. Until she was sure I was okay. Or at least okay enough to be left alone. When she left, I went up to my room. I took off the wine-colored dress carefully. I hung it in the closet. I would probably never wear it again. It would always remind me of this day, this humiliation. I put on my pajamas. I got into bed, and I stared at the ceiling, thinking, feeling, deciding. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the silence of the house, feeling how something inside me transformed. It wasn't rage, it wasn't hate, it was something deeper, more definitive. It was clarity. For the first time in years, I saw things as they really were, not as I wanted them to be, not as I had convinced myself they were, but as they were in reality. My son didn't love me. Or if he loved me, it was a love so small, so insignificant, that it changed nothing. It was the type of love felt out of obligation, out of habit, to not be seen as the bad son. But it wasn't the type of love that moves actions, that generates time, that builds presence. And I had spent years begging for that love, justifying it, waiting for it, believing that one day it was going to change, that one day he was going to wake up and realize he had me, that one day he was going to value me. But that day was never going to arrive, because Jason didn't want it to arrive, because for him, things were perfect like this. A mother who always said yes, who never complained, who was always available, who stored his things, who lent him money, who cooked when he asked, who accepted the crumbs he gave her. Why change something that worked so well for him? I got out of bed when it started to dawn. It made no sense to stay lying down. I went down to the kitchen, prepared coffee, sat at the table, and made a decision. I wasn't going to cry anymore. I wasn't going to beg anymore. I wasn't going to wait anymore. I wasn't going to be that pathetic mother who accepts anything just to keep a relationship with her son. If Jason wanted to treat me as if I didn't matter, perfect. But I wasn't going to make it easy for him. I finished my coffee, went up to my room, opened my computer. I hadn't used it in months. I turned it on and waited for it to load. I logged into my bank account. I looked at the numbers on the screen, and I started making changes. I had 3 accounts, one savings, one checking, and a joint account with Jason that we had opened years ago when his father died. It was for emergencies, we had said, so he would have access to money if I ever needed something, if something happened to me. But over the years, that account had become Jason's personal bank. He took out money when he wanted, without letting me know, without asking permission, because technically it was his account too, and I never said anything, never checked, never complained, until now. I checked the transactions of the last 6 months. Withdrawals of $500, of $800, of $1,200, never huge amounts, but constant, frequent. And I had never asked what for, never had questioned. I added it all up. In 6 months, Jason had taken almost $15,000 from that account. Money I had put there. Money from my pension. Money from the sale of some of his father's things. My money. I closed that account. Transferred everything left to my personal account. The one only I controlled. The one Jason didn't even know existed. It was almost $20,000. My savings, my security, my future. I called the bank when it opened at 9 in the morning. Good morning. This is Margaret Gonzalez. How can I help you, Mrs. Gonzalez? I need to close a joint account. Of course, Mrs. Gonzalez. Do you have the account number? I gave it to her. The woman on the other end checked. I see it is a joint account with Jason Gonzalez. Does he agree to close the account? It is my money. I opened that account. I have maintained it. And I want to close it today. I understand, ma'am. I just need you to come to the branch to sign some papers. Can you come today? I will be there in an hour. Perfect. I'll wait for you. I hung up. I got dressed. Simple clothes, pants, blouse, comfortable shoes. Nothing special. I wasn't getting dressed up for anyone. I wasn't preparing for anything. I was just doing what I had to do. I arrived at the bank. The executive attended to me. She was a young woman, maybe 30 years old, efficient, professional. Mrs. Gonzalez, I see here you want to close the joint account. May I ask the reason? I no longer need it. I understand. And is the other account holder aware? No. And he doesn't need to be. It is my money. He only has access because I gave it to him. But I no longer want him to have it. The woman nodded. She asked no more questions. She printed the papers, passed them to me. I signed them. 5 minutes later, the account was closed. I also want to make another change. I have an additional credit card in my son's name. I want to cancel it. The executive typed on her computer. Yes, here it is. It is an authorized user card on your main account. Are you sure you want to cancel it? Completely sure. Very well. I am canceling it immediately. The card will stop working in the next few minutes. Perfect. Anything else I can help you with, Mrs. Gonzalez? Yes. I want to change the passwords on all my accounts, and I want to activate notifications for any transaction, any charge, anything that happens in my accounts. I want to know immediately. No problem. I'll help you with that right now. We spent the next 20 minutes configuring everything. New passwords, notifications, alerts, security. When we finished, my accounts were completely mine, only mine. No one else had access. No one else could touch them. I left the bank feeling different, lighter, stronger. I had reclaimed something. I didn't know exactly what, but something inside me had been reset. I returned home, had lunch alone, as always. But it didn't feel the same anymore. It didn't feel sad. It felt like a decision, like something I chose, not something imposed on me. In the afternoon, I started checking my garage. All those boxes Jason had left. All those things he didn't want in his house but I had to store. I started taking them out. One by one, I put them in the driveway. Opened some. Old books he was never going to read. Clothes that didn't fit him anymore. College term papers. Sports trophies he won as a child. Things of no real value. But that occupied my space, my garage, my life. I left them there, in the driveway. If he wanted them, he could come for them. If not, I was going to find someone to take them away. But they were no longer going to be in my house. Linda came out and saw me working. Margaret, what are you doing? Cleaning, Linda. Taking out things I no longer need. She understood immediately. We weren't talking just about the boxes. Do you need help? No, thanks. I need to do this alone. She nodded, returned to her house, but she stayed outside, sweeping her driveway, arranging her plants. But really she was there, accompanying me without invading, being that silent presence that sometimes is all you need. I finished taking out all the boxes. My garage remained empty, clean, with space. I breathed deep. The air smelled different. It smelled like freedom. I entered the house, sat in the living room, and waited. I didn't know what I was waiting for, but I knew something was going to happen. When you make changes like this, when you take decisions like this, the universe responds, people respond, and Jason was going to respond, very soon. Sunday passed without news from him, as was to be expected. He was probably still enjoying his perfect dinner with his perfect mother-in-law. Probably didn't even think of me, of how I had been left, of how I had felt. Monday morning, the plumbers came to fix my plumbing. Like Jason had said, they did their work. I paid them, they left. All very professional, all very distant, as if that gesture of fixing my bathroom could compensate for what he had done. Monday afternoon, I received a text from Ashley. Mother-in-law, thanks for storing the boxes. When we can, we'll stop by for them. I didn't answer. The boxes were outside. If they wanted, they could come. If not, someone else was going to take them. It wasn't my problem anymore. Tuesday passed the same, without news, without calls, as if nothing had happened, as if everything continued normal. And maybe for them it did continue normal, because for them, I was always there, available, waiting, accepting. But Wednesday, everything changed. Wednesday night, my phone started ringing, and it wouldn't stop. Call after call after call, all from the same number. Jason. I didn't answer the first 3 calls. I let it ring, let it go to voicemail. I wanted him to feel what it was like not to be heard, not to be attended to, not to matter. But the calls continued, 4th, 5th, 6th. With each call, the interval between one and the other became shorter, more desperate. Finally, on the 7th call, I answered. Not because I felt pity, not because I wanted to help him, but because I wanted to hear what was so urgent. What was important enough to call me 7 times in a row when normally he didn't call me even once a week. Hello? Mom, thank God. Why weren't you answering? His voice sounded different. Anxious, nervous, altered. Nothing of the calm and disinterested tone he always used with me. I was busy. What happened? Mom, I have a problem. A very big problem. I need your urgent help. There it was. The magic word. Help. Whenever he called me, it was for that. To ask, to need, to use. What problem? Mom, they blocked my card, the bank one. And I also closed an account, and I don't know why. I tried to take out money and I couldn't. I tried to use the credit card and it's canceled. I don't understand what happened. I called the bank and they told me you closed everything. Is it true, Mom? Why did you do that? Because it is my money, Jason. My account, my card. And I decided to close them. But Mom, I need that money. I have a payment to make tonight. A very important payment. It's $15,000. And the account where I had it doesn't exist anymore. I need you to transfer me that money right now. It's urgent, Mom. Very urgent. $15,000. Exactly the amount he had taken from my account in the last 6 months. What a coincidence. What do you need $15,000 for, Jason? It's for a business deal, Mom. An investment. I have to pay tonight or I lose the opportunity. Please, Mom. I'll pay you back next week. I swear. Lies. I knew they were lies. He never returned the money, never kept his promises, and I always knew it. But I always believed him, or pretended to believe him, because it was easier, because it allowed me to continue being his mother, to continue being necessary. But not anymore. Not anymore. No, Jason. There was a silence on the other end of the line, as if my words made no sense, as if I had spoken in another language, as if it were impossible that I had said no. What? Mom, I didn't hear you right. Did you say no? Yes, I said no. I am not going to transfer you $15,000, not 15,000 nor 15. Nothing. Another silence. Longer this time. I could hear his breathing on the other end, fast, agitated, trying to process what he was hearing. Mom, you don't understand. It's urgent. If I don't pay tonight, I lose everything. I lose the business deal. I lose the money I already invested. I lose everything, Mom. Then you will lose. But it is not going to be with my money. How can you say that? I am your son, Mom. Your only son. How are you going to leave me like this? How are you going to deny me help when I need it most? Ah, now he was my son. Now he remembered that detail, when he needed something, when he wanted money. There, yes, I was his mother, and he was my son. But on Sunday, when he left me standing at the door, when he took his mother-in-law to dinner on Mother's Day, there was no son or mother there. There was only indifference. Do you remember Sunday, Jason? What? What does Sunday have to do with this? Everything. It has to do with everything. Do you remember when you came to my house and left me standing at the door while you took Victoria to dinner? On Mother's Day? My day. Oh, Mom, are you still on about that? I already explained. The reservation was for 3 people. There was no space for you. What did you want me to do? I wanted you to invite me. Your mother. Not your mother-in-law, or that at least you were honest from the beginning. That you wouldn't call me telling me to get dressed up. That you wouldn't make me get my hopes up. That you wouldn't make me buy a new dress thinking that finally my son had remembered me. It was just a dinner, Mom. It's not a big deal. You are exaggerating. I am not exaggerating, Jason. And now I understand. I understand perfectly how you see me. I am useful when you need money, when you need me to store things, when you need a favor. But when it comes to spending time with me, to valuing me, to treating me like your mother, there I don't exist. It's not like that, Mom. You are misinterpreting everything. I am not misinterpreting anything. I am seeing things exactly as they are, and I am not going to continue with this. I am not going to continue being your personal bank, your storage unit, your mother of convenience. Mom, please, don't do this. I need that money. I really need it. If I don't pay tonight, they are going to sue me. I am going to have legal problems. Is that what you want? Do you want to see your son with problems? If you have legal problems, it is because you created them, not me. You made decisions, you made commitments, and now you have to face the consequences. Like an adult, but you are my mother. Mothers are supposed to help their children. Always. No matter what. Yes, mothers help their children. But children also care for their mothers. Children also respect their mothers. Children also spend time with their mothers. And you haven't done any of that in years. I work, Mom. I have a life. I have a wife. I have responsibilities. I can't be with you all the time. I am not asking you to be with me all the time. I was only asking for a lunch every now and then. A call that wasn't to ask for something. A remembered birthday. A Mother's Day with me. It was so little I asked for, Jason, and even so, it was too much for you. I heard voices in the background. Ashley. She was asking what was happening. Jason covered the phone, but I managed to hear. She doesn't want to give me the money. I don't know what's wrong with her. What's wrong with her, Jason, is that she got tired. That she is no longer going to accept more. That she is no longer going to keep waiting for crumbs of attention while giving everything. Mom, please. Let's talk calmly. I understand you're upset about Sunday. You're right. I should have told you things clearly. I should have explained better. Sorry. Okay? Sorry. But now I need your help. We'll talk about everything else later. But now, help me with this. No, Jason. I am not going to help you. And it is not because I want to hurt you. It is not for revenge. It is because you need to learn. You need to understand that people are not there just to serve you. That your mother is not a resource you use when it suits you. I am a person, with feelings, with dignity. And I deserve respect. I already respect you, Mom. Of course I respect you. No, Jason, you do not respect me. If you respected me, you wouldn't have done what you did Sunday. If you respected me, you would call me, even if you didn't need anything. If you respected me, you would know what my favorite color is, what my favorite food is, what I like to do. But you know none of that because you have never asked, because you have never been interested. He stayed silent. He had no answer for that. Because it was true. It was all true. And he knew it. Mom, this isn't the moment for this conversation. I need that money. Now, are you going to give it to me or not? No. Okay. Fine. Perfect. If you don't help me, I'll find another way. I always find it. I don't need you, Mom. I have never really needed you. Those words should have hurt me, should have broken me. But they didn't, because finally he was telling the truth. Finally he was being honest. And honesty, even if it hurts, is better than a lie disguised as filial love. I know, Jason. I know you don't need me. That is why it is better this way. Better that everyone goes their own way. What does that mean? Are you kicking me out of your life? I am not kicking you out. I am just telling you that things are going to change. I am no longer going to be available every time you need something. I am no longer going to say yes to everything. I am no longer going to wait for calls that never arrive. I am going to live my life. And if you want to be part of it, you are going to have to make a real effort. Not 30-second calls. Not quick visits to drop off boxes. A real effort. You're crazy, Mom. You're completely crazy. All this because I didn't take you to a stupid dinner. No, Jason. All this because I realized I have spent years begging for love from someone who is not willing to give it. And I'm tired. I got tired of feeling invisible. I got tired of not mattering. I got tired of being your last option. You know what, Mom? Do whatever you want. But when you need something, when you are sick, when you are alone and realize you made a mistake, don't call me, because there I will be saying no, just like you are doing now. "That's fine, Jason. It is a risk I am willing to take." And I hung up. I turned off the phone, I put it on the table, and I stayed seated in the silence of my living room. My hands trembled a little, my heart beat fast. But I wasn't scared. I was liberated. For the first time in years, I had said what I felt. I had set boundaries. I had chosen my dignity over his comfort. The phone started vibrating again. Jason calling again. I didn't answer. He called 3 more times. I let it ring. Eventually it stopped. I poured myself a glass of water, sat on the sofa, and waited for what I knew would come. Because when you say no to someone who has always received a yes, they don't give up so easily. They come back. They try another way. They look for different angles, and so it was. Half an hour later, I received a text from Ashley. "Mother-in-law, please. Jason is desperate. He really needs that money. I don't know what happened between you two, but please help him. I beg you." I didn't reply. 5 minutes later, another message, this time longer, explaining that the business was real, that it was a unique opportunity, that if they didn't pay that night they lost everything, that please consider helping them, that she herself would pay me little by little if it was necessary. I didn't reply either. The messages kept coming. From Ashley, from Jason, from another phone, each one more urgent than the last. Each one with different promises. "We'll pay you back in a week, in 2 weeks, in a month, with interest." "Whatever you say, Mom." I turned off my phone completely. I didn't want to keep reading. I didn't want them to make me doubt, because I knew that if I kept reading, if I kept listening, maybe my old habit of giving in would return, and I couldn't allow it. Not now, not after having come so far. I went to sleep early that night, and I slept. I really slept. Better than I had slept in months, because I wasn't waiting for a call. I wasn't checking my phone. I wasn't thinking about what else I could do to earn my son's love. I simply slept, in peace, in silence, alone but not lonely, because finally I had myself, and that was enough. I woke up Thursday morning feeling strange, not bad, just different, as if I had crossed a door and could no longer return. And I didn't want to return. For the first time in a long time, the future didn't scare me. It gave me curiosity. I turned on my phone. 32 missed calls, 18 messages, all from Jason and Ashley. I didn't read them. I deleted them all. I blocked their numbers. If they wanted to talk to me, they would have to come in person. They would have to make the effort. I ate breakfast calmly. Coffee, toast, fruit. I sat at my table and enjoyed every bite. I was in no hurry. I didn't have to be pending on the phone. I didn't have to be available for anyone other than myself. At 10 in the morning, I heard a car park outside. I looked out the window. It was Jason. He came alone. His face looked tired, red eyes, as if he hadn't slept. He got out of the car and walked toward my door. He rang the doorbell. Once, twice, 3 times. I didn't open immediately. I took my time. I finished my coffee. I wiped my mouth. I fixed my hair. And then, only then, I went to the door. I opened. Jason was standing there with an expression I had never seen on him. It wasn't anger. It wasn't frustration. It was something closer to panic, to real desperation. "Mom, thank God. I thought you weren't going to open. You blocked my phone." "Yes, I did." "Why? Why are you doing all this?" "I already told you yesterday, Jason. Things changed. I changed." "Mom, please. Let's leave all that for later. Now I need you to listen to me. I need that money. I really need it. It's not a lie. It's not an invention. I have a serious problem." "How serious?" Jason breathed deep. He ran his hands over his face. He looked defeated, vulnerable. For the first time in years, he looked like a son who needs his mother, not like someone who just uses his mother. "I invested money in a business with some partners. I gave them $30,000. They promised me that in 3 months I was going to double the investment. But something went wrong. The business didn't work, and now they are asking me to put in another $15,000 to save what's left. If I don't do it, I lose everything. The $30,000 I already put in plus my reputation. They can sue me, Mom. They can take everything from me. And Ashley? Does she know about this?" "Yes. She is furious. I used savings we had for the house. Money that was both of ours. And now I don't know how to solve it. And it occurred to you that I was going to get you out of trouble? As always. It's just that you have always helped me, Mom. You have always been there when I need you. Yes, Jason. I have always been there when you need me. But where have you been when I need you? Where were you on my birthday? Where were you at Christmas? Where were you on Sunday when you left me standing at the door? I couldn't look him in the eyes. His gaze went down to the floor, like a scolded child. But he wasn't a child. He was a 40-year-old man who was facing the consequences of his decisions. I'm sorry, Mom. I really am sorry. I know I have been a bad son. I know I haven't given you the time you deserve. I know I have been selfish, but I swear I am going to change. If you help me with this, everything is going to be different. I'm going to visit you more. We're going to do things together. I promise you, Mom. Promises. Always promises. The same words I had heard before. After every forgetfulness, after every disappointment, promises that lasted until he got what he wanted. And then everything went back to being the same. Do you know how many times you have promised me that, Jason? How many times have you told me you are going to change? This time is different, Mom. I swear. No, it is not different. And I am not going to give you the money. His expression changed. The vulnerability disappeared. In its place returned something more familiar. Frustration, anger, resentment. Why are you so stubborn? It is my life that is at stake. My future. My family. Doesn't that matter to you? Of course it matters to me. You are my son. You are always going to matter to me. But mattering to me does not mean rescuing you from your mistakes. It does not mean being your solution every time you make bad decisions. Then what? Are you going to let me fall? Are you going to let me lose everything? I am not letting you fall. You put yourself in this situation. You invested money you didn't have. You made promises you couldn't keep. And now you have to find a way out. But it isn't going to be with my money. I have no other option, Mom. If you don't help me, I don't know what I'm going to do. Is that what you want? To see me destroyed? I want to see you learn. I want you to understand that actions have consequences. I want you to grow up, Jason, because you keep behaving like a child who expects Mom to solve everything. I am not asking you to solve everything. I am just asking for a loan. I am going to pay you back, with interest if you want. I don't want interest. I don't want your money. What I want is for you to value me, for you to respect me, for you to treat me like your mother, not your bank. I already told you I am going to change. What else do you want me to say? I don't want you to say anything, Jason. I want you to show me. I have heard many words, very few actions. Jason stayed quiet, breathing fast, trying to control his temper. I could see how his mind worked, looking for another angle, another way to convince me. And if I give you collateral? What if I sign a document? What if I leave you something as a pledge? My car. I can leave you my car as a guarantee that I'm going to pay you. I don't want your car, Jason. Then what do you want? Tell me what you want and I'll give it to you. But help me with this. I looked him directly in the eyes. This man who had come out of my body, who had grown up in my house, who had been the center of my world for so many years. And I felt something I had never felt before. Distance. A healthy distance. Necessary. I want you to leave, Jason. I want you to think well about all this. About who you want to be. About what kind of son do you want to be. And when you have a real answer, not just pretty words because you need something, then we can talk. Are you kicking me out? I am not kicking you out. I am giving you space to grow, to resolve this like the adult you are. I can't believe you are doing this to me. After everything I have done for you, everything you have done for me? Please, Jason, enlighten me. Tell me what is everything you have done for me. He stayed quiet, because there was nothing to say. In the last 5 years, since his father died, he hadn't done anything for me. Nothing real. Nothing that mattered. Fixing my plumbing didn't count. Sending flowers once a year didn't count. 30-second calls didn't count. Exactly. You can't say anything because you haven't done anything. And it's okay, Jason. I am not reproaching you. I am just showing you reality. So you see it as I see it. Jason took a step back. His expression was of disbelief, as if he couldn't process that his mother, who always said yes, who was always there, was telling him no. Fine, Mom. Perfect. If that's how you want things to be, that's how they will be. I won't ask you for anything again. Ever. And I hope that when you need something, you remember this day. You remember how you left me alone when I needed you most. I didn't leave you alone, Jason. I am letting you grow. There is a difference. He turned around and walked toward his car, got in, started the engine, and left. Without looking back, without saying goodbye, he just left. I closed the door, leaned against it, and breathed. Deep, long, liberating. Linda appeared at her door. Are you okay, Margaret? Yes, Linda. I am okay. Better than I have been in years. She nodded. She understood. Because she had gone through something similar with her children. We all go through that eventually. The moment where we have to choose between pleasing others or respecting ourselves. The following days were strange. Silent. My phone didn't ring. There were no messages. There were no calls. It was as if Jason had decided to keep his word of not looking for me again. And it was okay. It was more than okay. Because for the first time in years I wasn't waiting. I wasn't pending. I wasn't anxious to hear from him. I started to fill my time with other things. I went to a reading group at the library. I met other women my age. Interesting women with their own stories, with lives beyond their children. I enrolled in a painting class, something I always wanted to do but never had time. Because I was always waiting for Jason to need something, waiting to be useful. Linda and I started going out to walk in the afternoons. We talked, we laughed, we told each other our lives, and I realized I had been so focused on being a mother that I had forgotten to be Margaret. The person, the woman, the complete human being beyond the role. A week passed, then 2. Jason's silence continued. And I was still okay, still alive, still discovering who I was without him, who I could be when I wasn't defined only by being his mother. But then, one afternoon, 2.5 weeks after our last conversation, I heard the doorbell. I opened the door, and there he was again. But he looked different. He didn't come with that desperation of the previous day. He didn't come with demands. He came with something more akin to humility, to real shame. Hi, Mom. Hi, Jason. Can I come in? I hesitated a moment, but something in his expression made me step aside. He entered, sat in the living room. I sat across from him, waiting. Jason didn't speak immediately. He stayed seated, looking at his hands, as if he were looking for the right words, as if for the first time in his life he didn't know what to say. Finally, he looked up. I didn't come to ask you for money, Mom. I came to tell you that you were right. About everything. I stayed quiet, waiting, because I had learned that words without actions meant nothing, and I needed to see what else he had to say. I lost the money, the $30,000 I invested, everything. The partners disappeared. It was a scam, Mom, a well-done scam, and I felt like an idiot. Ashley almost left me. I still don't know if we are going to stay together. I lost my reputation. I have debts. I have a huge mess in my life. I am very sorry, Jason. And during these 2 weeks, while I was trying to fix all this mess, I realized something. I realized that whenever I had a problem, I ran to you. I always expected you to solve it, and I never asked myself what it was that you needed. I never asked myself how you were, if you were alone, if you were sad, if you needed something. His eyes filled with tears, real tears, not tears of manipulation, not tears to get something, tears of true regret. I was a terrible son, Mom. Not just these last weeks, these last years. Since Dad died, I left you alone. I made you invisible. I treated you as if you didn't matter. And the worst is that I knew it. I knew it was wrong, but it was easier to ignore it. It was easier to focus on my life and forget about you. I said nothing. Just listened to him. Because this was what I had been waiting for. Not money, not gifts, not empty promises. Just honesty. Just that someone saw what I had been feeling all this time. On Mother's Day Sunday, when I saw you standing at the door with your new dress, with your eyes full of hope, I knew I was doing something horrible. But I did it anyway. Because Victoria had insisted, because Ashley asked me to, because it was easier to disappoint you than to face them. And that has no forgiveness, Mom. It has no justification. The tears ran down his face now, and I felt something move inside my chest. It wasn't immediate forgiveness. It wasn't forgetting everything. But it was something. It was a crack in the wall I had built, a small crack of hope. I don't expect you to forgive me, Mom. Not now. Maybe never. But I needed you to know that I understand. I understand what I did. I understand the pain I caused. And I am going to change. Not because I need something from you. Not because I want your money. But because I need to be a better man. A better son. A better person. He wiped his tears with the back of his hand, breathed deep, and took something out of his pocket. It was an envelope. This is for you. It isn't money. It isn't a gift. It is something different. I opened it. Inside was a letter, handwritten, with his handwriting, page after page. I read the first lines. It was an apology, a real apology, detailed, specific. It mentioned every forgotten birthday, every unreturned call, every broken promise. Everything was there, acknowledged, accepted. And at the end of the letter there was something else. A commitment. Not just words. A plan. A promise with specific dates. Lunch every Sunday. Call every Wednesday. Celebrations together. Real time. Real effort. I know this doesn't make up for what I did, Mom. I know it's going to take time. But I want to try. If you let me. If you still want me to be part of your life. I looked at him. At this man who was my son. Who would always be my son. And I made a decision. Not based on hope. Not based on illusion. But based on what I had just heard. On what I had just seen. On this small but significant show of real change. I am going to give you a chance, Jason. 1. But things are going to be different. I am going to be different. I am not going to be the mother who accepts anything again. I am not going to wait for crumbs again. If you want to be in my life, you are going to have to make the effort. For real. Not just when it suits you. I am going to do it, Mom. I promise you. And this time, I am going to deliver. We'll see. The following months were different. Not perfect. There were slip-ups. There were moments when Jason forgot. But when he did, I reminded him. And he apologized. And he tried again. Little by little, we started to build something new. Not the relationship we had before. That was broken forever. But something different. Something more honest. More real. More balanced. Jason came to my painting classes. He sat with me and painted. Horribly. But he tried. And that mattered. He called me on Wednesdays, as he promised. Sometimes the call was short, 5 minutes, but he called. And he asked how I was. And he listened to the answer. On Sundays we had lunch together, sometimes at my house, sometimes at his, sometimes at a restaurant. And Ashley started treating me differently too, with more respect, with more attention. I never gave him the $15,000, and he never asked me for them again. He learned to solve his problems, to live within his means, to be responsible. And I learned something too. I learned that it is okay to set boundaries, that it is okay to say no, that it is okay to demand respect, that a mother's love doesn't mean sacrificing yourself until you disappear. It means loving yourself enough to teach your children to love you too. A year after the Mother's Day that changed everything, Jason came to my house early in the morning. He brought flowers, a wrapped gift, and a reservation. For two, for him and for me, at the Gilded Olive. Mom, allow me to take you to dinner today? To make up for last year, to start a new tradition. And we went. We sat at that table that should have been mine from the beginning. We ate, we talked, we even laughed. And for the first time in years, I felt seen, valued, loved. Not in the desperate way I used to need his love, but in a quiet way. Safe, healthy, because I was no longer a mother begging for attention. I was Margaret Gonzalez, a 66-year-old woman who had learned to value herself, who had her own life, her own interests, her own strength. And my son finally understood it. Finally he understood that he wasn't losing me when I set boundaries. I was finding myself, and by finding myself, he also found his mother. The real one. Not the one who let herself be used, but the one who deserved respect. And that, in the end, was what saved us both.